Inward Nine.
This is for them boys down in Texas that be handling their biz. Get it how you live. You know what it is.
Welcome back to the Inward Nine, a Fantasy Golf Metrics production. My name is Jeff Ulrich, talking the Fort Worth Invitational, not the Dean and DeLuca anymore. It's the Fort Worth Invitational at Colonial. Do a little AT&T Byron Nelson recap, even though it's going to be a sad one because Mark Leishman didn't win. Joining me, as always, at FG Metrics, co-founder Stephen Richter. Steve, were you a little disappointed by Mark Leishman or a lot disappointed by Mark Leishman?
It depends. I mean, I'm not as emotionally invested as I think we talk about from a financial standpoint. Yeah, I'm definitely a little disappointed. We had him to win. I know you had, some good money on him. You were able to cash out a little early, but I'm definitely disappointed. I thought he would get it done. When I looked at the stats afterwards, it was clear that he had a hot putter that didn't stay hot. If you saw how many strokes he gained putting, it wasn't as much of a ball striking, and we always talk about that as being, the more consistent thing. So he kind of fooled us early on. I mean, listen, I thought he was going to hang on to win just because of the experience and what he's been able to do, but yeah, I was disappointed. I was very disappointed financially, and I was a little disappointed, emotionally.
Yeah, I'm not even really mad like that. I'm not like, oh, Mark Leishman choked, because I don't really see it as he choked. You're right. I mean, he's riding a hot putter. He still played well. Again, I mean, Mark Leishman on a links course like this, I think you always have to consider, and he's just proven how good a links player he is again. But it's just Aaron Wise just played phenomenal, man. Like, I'm looking back at the stats today, and he's like top 5 in everything. I mean, it was just a clinic, like putting around the green. He didn't miss many greens, by the way. I think he was like first in greens in regulation, but like approach off the tees, killing it. It's just like an elite performance by a player who, in my opinion, is probably going to be elite one day.
Yeah, I definitely think he showed up. I mean, before we came on, obviously we're talking about, he's kind of been playing well consistently. Obviously he showed up at Wells Fargo, but you look at the numbers that he put up this past week, and everything just pops now. I mean, you look at like some of the moving averages that I always discuss. All of a sudden, he's up there in everything just because of what he was able to do in this 1 week. So it was really impressive all around. I'm not sure that I saw it coming this quickly, or at least to this level, because it was a really awesome performance. I mean, he had to do a lot to catch a guy that was way ahead of people. So for him to kind of consistently do it over the course of 4 days was really impressive.
It's one of those situations, like I kind of beat myself up for it on Sunday night, just because I know I knew Aaron Wise was capable of this. I really did. I mean, I followed him on the web.com. He's won at every level he's been at, and he's actually won pretty quickly. And, I was kind of waiting for it this year. And when he popped at Wells Fargo, I kind of had it in my mind, like I got to bet him at next event. And then the numbers came out, and I'm like, well, 35, 40 to 1. It's not really good. It's not really what he should be. And I was probably right. But when a guy like that pops, and you're right, it's hard to see because it was such a big jump. Like it's not like he was playing that well early in the season, but it's almost like I go back to Xander Schauffele, whatever his face is, last year, and he kind of did the same thing a little bit. He maybe showed a little bit more progression, but it was just, he played well for one event and then he won like the next time out. And it's kind of the same thing with Wise. And I guess my point is, when you see a talented guy like that gain even a little bit of confidence, probably just get on them in their next start. Don't worry about the number. Just bet them, because they're ready to win. These guys are like ready. They've been ready since school started. Since they played in school, they've been ready on the web.com. These guys all win at every level. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of a lesson learned, unfortunately, but it is one, I guess. It was kind of hard to see coming, though. I agree.
It was definitely, tough trying to pick players because of, again, we talked about how weak the field was, and I looked at the numbers. It ended up being like the 4th weakest field of the year so far based on how we rate everything. But, you're right. You see these guys in like that 30 to 40 range, and it just throws you off, and you don't consider them like, you consider it a really bad price, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not supposed to be there. It's just kind of hard to get your head around, especially coming off the Players, where you're literally the best field in the world, and then you have to deal with that because in the field like the Players, Aaron Wise, what, $120, $150 to 1, and then the next week, 30 to 40 to 1 in that range. That's what you'd expect from someone like him. So
he was 200 to 1 at Wells Fargo. He was 200 to 1 at Wells Fargo.
Exactly.
So it's just such a big jump. At the same time, you got to be prepared. Like I said, you got to be prepared to get on these guys when they pop. So anyways, like I said, lesson learned. It was a good week for us. I mean, we had a lot of guys pop. We talked about JJ Spawn on the pod last week. He popped finally. Keith Mitchell keeps putting out great performances. I mean, he was ranked highly for us, obviously. So, I mean, a lot of good young players playing well at this event. They took advantage of it. Anyone else catch your eye that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, a lot of the guys played really well. I mean, little fallback on Sunday. I mean, you know, a guy like Joel
Yeah.
Dahman, we were all over. We just missed him on the top 10. Uline faded. He was a candidate for top 10 as well. But again, all the guys, I mean, if you look at our first class last week, I mean, we had all these guys in there. You had Jimmy Walker. I know a good handful of our users had some success this week just from the straight rankings. But, you know, we didn't get the return on the bets this week. Just, you know, listen, guy finishes top 12 and he's top 10. Things like that happen. You know, it's hard to get too frustrated when you feel like your guys are in the mix. It's not like we kind of whiffed on it completely. Just that's the way it falls. So hopefully we get back on it this week and, you know, they fall on the other side of the top 10, top 5 conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So one more thing just before we get to, we'll head right into the Colonial. And we'll talk a little bit about the BMW PGA event over in Europe too, or I will. I don't know if Steve's actually looked at that field yet, but it's kind of an interesting field. But there's a new tool out on, fantasygolfmetrics.com. It's called Round Searcher. I'm going to let Steve get in, but definitely check out the site after you're done listening to this podcast, fantasygolfmetrics.com. Weekly subscriptions, only $5, good yearly price too. In my opinion, it is the best value out there if you're looking at membership sites. It's got a bunch of different tools. I probably don't give it enough props on this podcast, but the lineup builder is awesome. And this new Round Searcher tool, Steve, what does it do?
So it's extremely simple, and that was the point. We had a lot of our users ask, you know, to look at kind of very specific things from the past, and we just took, you know, the data we have. I mean, listen, obviously we have it for all the research we're doing, and we just put it together where you can go on there and you can pick any single player from any single event and look at their round statistics and their whole statistics. Basically what happens is, let's say you pick a year, an event, a player, scorecards will pop up. It'll show you every single hole. It'll show you their tee time, the course. There's an event summary that also shows you what they ended up doing for the whole event. But, you know, it's a very simple tool that I think has a lot of power. So, you know, if you're kind of interested in how someone played in a specific round, or even want to look at how they played on specific holes, whether it's this course that's coming up or just any recent course or anything you want to kind of draw back on, you know, to kind of back test any of your own results. That's what we were going for. Right now, very simply, basically, you can see the score for every hole. You can see all the strokes gained for each hole. We're going to get a little feedback on it because it's kind of like version 1.0. It works great, but we want to add a couple more features, maybe even more like a historic shot tracker in terms of being able to see like the shot by shot on top of that. So just waiting to get some feedback, but we're really excited. It's just something that people have asked for, and again, you know, anytime people ask us for something, if it's in our power to do it and it's not going to, you know, be too much work or development, you know, we want to put it out there.
Yeah, I love it because I love looking back. I mean, obviously we like to look back on players' histories at events and courses and venues and stuff like that, but I like looking back into what they actually did, like the strokes gained for the week. Like, did a guy like, you know, was he first in strokes gained putting and he was just terrible off the tee or whatever? That's the info I want. So it's not just a finishing position. So to be able to do that, to dive into the round by round, I love it. Like that you're right. I mean, it's a very simple, but it's going to be a powerful tool. Definitely something I'm going to be putting to use every week. So Round Searcher, definitely check it out. Like I said, fantasygolfmetrics.com. But let's move on because we stay in Texas this week. It's like I said, it's the Fort Worth Invitational. God, I just about, you know, I've come so close to screwing up the name to this event like 3 times, but I haven't done it. So that's good. Used to be the Dean and DeLuca. Before that, it was like, I don't even remember what it was.
Crown
It was
Plaza.
like Crown Plaza. I think it actually had another name before, but I don't know. Who cares? I just call it the Colonial because that's the best name that it's ever had personally. Yep. Like it should just be, it's just the Colonial. Because I mean, this course, this venue has been in play forever. What's it called? Like Hogan's Alley here? Is that what it's called? The tough stretch? Yeah, Hogan's Alley. So it's got like a three-hole stretch, really tough, some really tough long par fours. It's a cool course. It's not like overly exciting, but at the same time, there's actually a lot of water on this course, like half the holes, a lot of sand. I kind of like this venue a little bit more than say like Hilton Head, which is, you know, the other sort of classical venue. I personally like this course a little bit better. I think it's just a little bit more challenging in certain ways. The field this year, Steve, is actually like ridiculously good, isn't it?
It's definitely up there. I mean, listen, and sometimes you get that invitational. It's a not a weaker field, but a smaller field. So overall, you know, the total amount of talent. But you know, if you just look at the world rankings, I mean, in the top 50 alone, you have 20 people. So almost, you know, half of the top 50 are playing. If you stretch it out to the top 100, you know, you're looking at another 50, 49 out of the top 100 are playing. That's pretty good. I mean, you come from the players and where it's like almost 100 of the top 100, but that's what I've noticed is the bar. I mean, basically you take the top 20, top 50, top 100 in the world. If half of them are in there, it's a pretty good field. That's what I'm noticing.
Yeah, I mean it's basically like you said, it's like half the top guys. So I mean you got some really interesting names here, and then obviously we'll go through it and stuff like that. But Fowler, Rose, John Rahm. I mean Fowler hasn't played this event since 2014. Rose, I'm not sure if this is his first or if it's like he hasn't played in like 8 years, but he hasn't been here for a while. Regardless, Brooks Koepka, I'm almost positive this is his first time at the venue. So it's going to be an interesting week. I'm excited for this week. I really am. I mean, last week was kind of cool because we got the new venue, but to be able to see some of these guys as we get into the lead up to the U.S. Open now, I think this is going to be really interesting. Any other notes about the course, just like stat wise or anything keys you're looking at, or you just want to give people any more info about the preview?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a couple things down. The first thing I wrote down is it's extremely average. And what I mean by average is,
right.
Generally every single week I talk about how it differences, the differences that are, from the tour. And everything's pretty much the same. I mean, it's around the same average cut. It's around the same average winning score, 14 and a half under. The birdie averages, the bogey averages, they're all around the same. Everything is kind of like on par, not to use a golf term there, with what the tour is in scoring. The one thing I noticed that was really interesting to me is, I mean, scrambling and scrambling proximity is definitely huge this week. But driving accuracy does matter a little bit. I thought it was interesting because, as many people probably know, Spieth has had a phenomenal track record here, and he's not known as an extremely accurate driver of the ball. But I have noticed that, the average driving accuracy of the winner is 63%, which is 3% lower than the tour average. But that 63%, when you look at the R data against the field, is 6% higher than the average winner on tour. So it's kind of crazy to me. Like, it's really tough to drive here, but I guess that what Spieth can do on the greens and around the greens makes up for it, because he's not known as a driver of the ball, but he's had so much success here. And that's the one thing I thought was really interesting. So you got to drive it well, but I guess as long as you can get up and down and make some putts, that works here.
Well, and the one thing I'd add to that is these are hard to hit fairways. So like even the really accurate drivers are going to miss fairways, and it's kind of like where you miss. I know I heard John Rahm talking about this last year because he said he liked the course. It's okay if you go on the rough on certain sides because you're still going to have angles to the greens. So, I mean, it kind of gives you an idea. You may not have high driving accuracy, but it's still important to miss in certain areas. It's the people who can't place it off the tee properly, not necessarily in the fairway, who really seem to have trouble on this course. So, and the scrambling is interesting too, because that's the other trend of the players who have done really well here. It's not necessarily, it is kind of a ball striking course, but at the same time, like if you're a good sand player, if you're good around the greens, you have a big advantage this week, in my opinion, especially in the sand. Like I've kind of noticed that trend. Some of the best sand players have done really well here. So just a couple things to point out. Definitely in on scrambling and around the green stats this week. If you're looking at those, but it's an interesting test of golf. It's so much different than last week, anyways. So. It couldn't be a more different course, really, could it, than Trinity Forest?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know we kind of already talked about last week, but just to jump back, what did you think about the course? I mean, I thought it looked great. I think it was a good challenge. I think people expected it to play a bit harder than it did, but I mean, I didn't see too much negative feedback. Obviously, Kuchar didn't like it, and then he missed the cut. So, but I mean, I think it could be a good stop.
No, you know what? It's exciting. I mean, it was scoring. There was scoring. The best player won. I mean, Aaron Wise was by far the best player. He deserved to win that golf tournament. There's no question. At the same time, you saw guys be able to go low on Sunday. I mean, Brandon Grace, if Aaron Wise isn't in that tournament, I mean, he's putting a ton of pressure on Leishman. He might pull it off, right? So I love that from a golf tournament perspective. I think it's great. And the other thing about the course is, okay, it played really easy this year. Next year, if it gets windy in Texas, which it does like half the time, like that course is going to play completely different, which I like that fact too. So I think it's a great venue. I think it's a change from what you see every week. I think it's good to go there one week and then come back here. I hope they leave the schedule here the same, because it's really cool to see two different courses, completely different courses in a row, which are both good in their own right. So I like it personally. I hope more top players play there next year. Plus, then I can bet Mark Leishman there every year because he's an awesome Lynx player. So good for me. But let's dive into the field. Let's talk about this. I mean, I think I asked you this last week, but I do like this question. Of the top players, who are you most afraid to fade this week? So we got Webb at 10-2, Ricky at 10-4, Justin Rose 10-6. We're talking DraftKings, obviously. John Rahm 11K, and Jordan Spieth 11-7.
I would have to say, afraid to fade. I mean, it's got to be Spieth again, just because of the pricing, and you saw where he was last week. I mean, he came out a little slow and then turned it on. But again, I think he's $100 more. I think he was 11-6 last week. And you look at the course history here, and he's obviously playing a little better. That's the thing that I'm scared. I mean, a second, first, second, 14th, 7th. That's his finishes here the last 5 years. So, again, I would expect him, especially coming off playing well last week, to be a bit higher price. So that's the thing. I don't know that I want to fade him, but I don't want to play him. To be honest, I don't want to play him. I'm actually pretty interested in John Rahm this week, but I can't play both of them. So that would be the argument there. It's like I want to play Rahm, so I'm scared that going that direction, Spieth's going to go out there and at least top 10, which is a great finish for 11-7. If he was 12-5, you need him to be top 5, top 3 to really feel good about it. But that's the thing. I just think it's a little soft, especially considering where he was last week, plus the course history here.
Yeah. First, I'll talk on that first, because I do feel like if Jordan Spieth is going to get down on sentiment, like if John Rahm's going to be like 10% higher owned than Spieth, I'll gladly take Spieth this week. I know John Rahm played well here last year. I know he's doing well, but this is like Steve Stricker and the John Deere. This is like Spieth's John Deere, basically. I mean, he's going to compete at this tournament every year, in my opinion. It just sets up really well for his game. Like we mentioned off the top, even though he's not that accurate off the tee, he's able to put it in the right spots. His short game helps him so much on a venue like this. So I don't mind getting on him here. I'll be honest, the player I'm most afraid of the ones I listed to fade this week is Webb Simpson. I
was just going to say, I didn't know if you were really counting him there, but, he finished 5th here last year and 3rd the year before. He's obviously playing well. The win it's not like one of those things where, that should never be the case, but it's not a thing where like he just won, so, you can't play. But yeah, I mean, he's popping. He's number 1 on our, survival guide. How can he not be after playing as well? I mean, he was like top, 15 going into the win, so you add the players win plus what he's done here the last 2 years. I mean, if you go way back, he missed the cut a couple times, but talking 2010, 2009, so I don't really consider that, considering he's gone top 5 the last 2 years. So yeah, he's definitely a guy that you're going to miss out on if he plays just as well as he's been, plus the course history.
And here's the thing. Okay, I understand it's Webb Simpson. I understand, he's coming off like the greatest putting performance ever, but let's just look at it in context. He just finished beating the best field in the world, like unquestionably the best field in the world, by 4 strokes. And he probably would have won by more if he didn't hit if he didn't have a 6-shot lead on 18 already. He probably would have won by 6. He just destroyed them. And now he comes to a weaker field on another course that sets up perfectly for him. Like, the guy is full of confidence. This is like prime Barry Bonds going down into the minor leagues or something, for a game. And just so, I mean, it's a little bit scary. I know it's golf and form doesn't it comes and goes, but it's a little scary to feel to fade Webb Simpson, because I'm usually on that trend where it's where a guy just won. He's probably taking some time off. It might be that sharp, but don't forget Webb Simpson hadn't won in 5 years. And now that he's in this form, just the fact he's in this field, I think speaks to the fact he's probably maybe wants to win again. He wants to ride this form. He wants to strike while the iron's hot. So it does scare me a little bit. I'm not saying, he's like my pick, but of the top 5, he'd be the guy I'm most afraid to fade, to be honest.
Yeah, I just, you look at he's 6th in strokes gained tee to green, 4th in strokes gained.
He sets up perfectly. Yeah. His short game has been great too, doesn't it?
He's doing everything well right now. So how do you not show interest? Who I definitely am not interested in. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that, because I don't think it's a level of consistency. Aaron Wise checks in right after that at 9-6 all of a sudden. Now he's, the 6th highest priced guy. I mean, listen, we have him in the second class, no history here, hard to say. Obviously phenomenal. Listen, if you're in on Aaron Wise, now is the time to double down, because I can't imagine his ownership's going to be there at 9,600.
No, not with Jimmy Walker and Matt Kuchar right underneath him. I mean, he might be lower owned than last week, and he was like six
Yeah, he was
percent
on
owned
like six,
last
seven
week.
percent.
So you're right. I mean, this is like double down time on Aaron Wise. I agree completely. And I mean, I might have to think about getting some exposure because I made the boneheaded move of going Brant Snedeker over Aaron Wise last week, and it sounds so stupid now, but that's just the thing. I mean, his rise has been so dramatic over two events that you got to adjust. But I definitely will probably try and get a piece if he's going to be that low owned again. Walker and Kuchar obviously really good. Jimmy Walker, I know playing well, hasn't really had that much success at this course. I feel like the tight fairways probably have done him in. He's had a couple good rounds, but he's also consistently shot like around par over here. So something to consider. Going back to the top guys, I like Ricky Fowler this week.
Okay.
I feel like this. I really feel like this could be a great setup for him. I know he hasn't played it for a while, but do you think do you think it's there?
I think it could be. There's nothing that says like I'm all in on Ricky Fowler right now. I mean,
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like you can make the argument that even though it's a good field, he still is the class of the field. But from what I can see, I mean, he's still in our second class. He's kind of played okay over his last few starts. I mean, he's 18th in strokes gained tee to green over the last 12 weeks. The putter has been, I think,
It's been trash. Like he's
that's
133rd in strokes gained putting.
That's the problem. I mean, he's 59th in this field, and that's like basically half. He's better than that normally.
I guess that's kind of like the argument for him though, because like tee to green, he was fine at Wells Fargo, and if you just erase TPC Sawgrass, he's playing with Tiger and Phil. I mean, I don't really care like about him missing the cut there, but you look at Wells Fargo, and then the start before that was the Masters, which he almost won. Ricky Fowler's a really good bentgrass putter. Like you go to the turf split 2.0 on Fantasy Golf Metrics, he's near the top of guys with the best variance on bentgrass. So.
One of the things I like to do, and it doesn't really help the case here, even though, of course, it's true there. What I like to do with the survival guide is I like to find guys that are hitting it well, have putted well in the past, and I think I mentioned this on the pod before, but
right, yeah,
they're good putters, but maybe aren't putting well, and then see if they've putted well on this course. He hasn't necessarily, but there's a couple guys that, I definitely like. That's kind of the scenario. They're more in the next step down. So
throw him out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with Zach Johnson. I mean, listen, I think
Okay.
I think he's 12 of 12 cuts here, average finish of 21.7. This is like one of his go-to spots. He is not. He's striking it fine. He has not been putting well, but he's 17th in the field in course history, strokes gained putting over, and that's a huge sample size. I mean, we're talking 12 events that we're looking at. So it's not like it's a fluky where he had one or two good years. I mean, he likes to putt here. So I could see him getting that back, and if he just puts a little better, I think he'll be right there. And again, that's probably why he's done well here in the past.
Absolutely. I mean, and like, we can move down in range now, and we can pop back up. But when I was just making my like sort of core lineup just to put in to enter into tournaments. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to leave it, but man, you can make a really good cash game team by like basically sticking in like the 95 to like 8K range. Absolutely. And just stack the crap out of this range, because you got Jason Duffner, who's got a fantastic course history or two runner-ups, and he's playing well. Grillo, who's playing well all season. Chesson Hadley, Alexander Schauffele, who again, another really good bentgrass putter coming off fantastic performance at the Players. I mean, mention Bryson in this range. Like, is that a strategy you think for cash games, especially? Is that what you kind of do just at first glance?
I think there are a couple guys in the lower end that I'm interested in that I could feel good about going with one or two and then playing with the higher guys. But yeah, I mean, you look at how juicy that 8 to, like you said, 9,500 range is, and it's, I mean, you could put a lineup together with 6 guys that might finish in the top 30 in the FedEx Cup come the year end. I mean,
yeah,
it's really, really strong in that spot, and it wouldn't surprise me if one of those guys is the winner, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if it's a balanced lineup that takes it down. I mean, we've seen it all year. It's probably a product of the weaker, softer pricing, which is, I know, kind of what everyone calls it, but it's just kind of the new DraftKings this year. I feel like it's just not that challenging most weeks to put together a lineup you like, but especially this week because it's a little deeper, even though it's a smaller field. you're able to do a lot with that, 83.33 average price.
Yeah, and the other problem with this week is because it does get a little, and it's a smaller field. So once you hit, usually the field starts to like weaken out around 71 7K. But if you kind of it gets a little bit harder around 7,400 this week. There's a couple plays we can go down, but because of the shorter field, it is a little bit tougher. But again, you can stack from 9K to 8K really easily too. So, and there are some players in like the upper sevens who are, there's a lot to talk about. So, going down, I mean, first of all, who's your favorite play in 8K range? Have you already picked one out yet? It doesn't even have to be 8K range, just kind of, the next tier down, kind of from Kuchar down.
I mean, obviously I led with ZJ there. He's definitely one of the guys I like in that spot.
Right.
DeChambeau.
Right, I guess you're.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of where I was. DeChambeau, I'm not. I mean, I've been a huge DeChambeau fan recently. I think he's kind of like hitting me. I could see him hitting a wall here, but I think it's a good spot. Schwartzel's interesting to me. He's at 8,900, so a little above where you're saying, but he's definitely played well the last couple of weeks. Popped obviously played well at Augusta, played well in the team event, played well at Players, so he's kind of been around. There's no one else in that range that I want to say like is my go-to guy, but like you said, Xander, especially back on Bent. Hadley, we've been loving him for a while. I mean, I don't know when it runs out, but he's at 8,300. He's been playing really well. You have him ranked 9th in form. So it's hard. I mean, I can make a case for a lot of these guys. To say one of them is like the guy you have to go with, I'm not sure I'm there yet. I might need another day or so. But yeah, I mean, ZJ is probably my first choice. He'll probably be a little chalky just because of the run that he had in the early teens and winning here and finishing top 3 a bunch. So that's kind of where I'm at in that price range.
It's almost tough to differentiate between some of these guys. I hear what you're saying. Like you could pick 4 or 5 of them, and like the one you don't pick could easily win. So here's kind of an interesting 1 versus 1. Now, there's a guy at 9,200 who's second in our survival guide. Never played here before. I already mentioned him, but like Brooks Koepka, Adam Scott, Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah, did that surprise you? That came out of nowhere?
It didn't necessarily come out of nowhere because I knew he'd played pretty well in his last 2 events. Obviously, the Players. I mean, he finished with like a 900 round. At the same time, like, what do you think of him for this event? Because I mean, like, this is Colonial. This isn't like Aaron Hills where he can just bomb driver down there 400 yards and have like a huge advantage. I mean, he's never played here. Like, is this an event where you think? I mean, Brooks is talented enough to win anywhere. I agree, but like, you interested in him this week, even with the survival guide being so high on him?
I'm interested because I like the direction, the trend. He's ranked first in trend, and if you look at some of the stats, he actually ranked first in average DFS points over the time frame. Now, again, if you look on the survival guide, it says 2 of 3 cuts made, so it's like, well, how is he ranked 8th in form? That missed cut is the team event, so that doesn't really mean anything to me. So. He went out in his first solo, finished like 40, whatever, at Wells Fargo. Then he had the great finish, played really well at 11th at the Players. So, yeah, I mean, the trend is there for a guy that's a premium player. I got him ranked 15th in secret stat, 1st in trend, 8th in form. Like you said, he's 2nd in the survival guide. I get what you're saying. Is it just not the right course fit? But I don't know. I don't know that. I'm interested to kind of think about what the ownership's going to be. I think that's more of the conversation. If he's going to be lower owned, because a lot of people are saying the same thing that we're saying, that it's not maybe the fit, then I'm definitely more interested. I think I'm not scared of the course personally, but if a lot of people are going to be on him, then I can find value elsewhere. I mean, Scott, definitely a guy. I mean, we liked him last week. We had him top 5. He just missed, kind of faded a little bit on Sunday. Cantlay, I mean, he's disappointing because he's first in strokes gained tee to green over the last 12 weeks for the sample size in the field. He's 117th in strokes gained putting. So that's, it's just one of those stories. I mean, 5th in form, 15th in trend, 12th in secret stat. Cantlay is a guy that I want to come back and win again so bad, but he can't seem to find it right now on the green. So that's my concern there. I mean, I like Kepka. I do like him.
I'm there with you. I mean, I feel like of those three players, he's the best player too. I mean, and
Yep.
the thing is, okay, he just came back from injury. He spoke. He wants to win soon, and he's got the U.S. Open, so his focus is completely on winning right now. And I mean, I'm not saying that the other two aren't focused on winning, but I just feel like Brooks is pretty hungry right now, and he's probably taking this event seriously, even though it's his first time. I mean, you worry about the experience factor a little bit. This isn't what I call the best venue. It's going to put more stress on his short game, but again, if he's going to be lower owned, I'll be there too. I might even bet him outright because his prices don't look too bad, like 30-1. So Adam Scott, Patrick Cantlay, I'd probably go of these three. If I was taking one in a cash game, I'd probably just throw Adam Scott in there. He was first in tee to green last week. He still can't putt. Whatever. I mean, for a cash game, I'll just take the T28 or something, I guess. But I think Koepka Cantlay, for me, have better upside this week, even with Adam Scott just being so solid. So that's kind of where I'm at. Brooks is going to be really interesting this week. He's just a player who seems, when he's on, he can compete anywhere, and when he's off, he could also implode at a course like this. He could take an 8 or something somewhere. So it's going to be interesting either way. I feel like the form is there, though. I got to agree with the guide on that. So
I'll tell you, I don't know what he was a couple weeks back, but I wish I had bought a little early on Koepka for the U.S. Open.
Right.
I don't know if the number has changed much. Right now I'm looking, he's around 30-1 or so, but I mean, I had him last year at 40-1, so he's not too far off, but I'm sure he was probably in like the 40 to 50 range when he was still injured. But he just, that sets up really well, especially with the way he's trending. I mean, it's in 3 weeks. He's got to be, I think he's personally better than a 28-1, 30-1 guy right now, but I feel like I probably could have got a better price if I just jumped on it earlier.
No, and yeah, I agree. I missed out on him last year's Open because I told everyone he was a great fit, and then the week of, for some reason, I didn't bet him. That's just another one of my sad stories. But anyways, I got a lot of sad stories. That's not even cracking the surface. Let's move on down though, because it is still strong in like the high 7K range. I mean, Kevin Na again is like going to be the value play of the week, 7,800. Making cuts, like in top 10 stroke gain approach last week. He sets up really well for this event. He was like a 54-hole leader here one year. It's just a Kevin Na course. I'm not going to go into it. He's a great sound player too. Great around the greens, kind of like mini Jordan Spieth on this course. But then you got other players down here. I mean, Adam Hadwin is just like the moneymaker. You just plug and play basically. He's been top 5 at this course. I think he's 3 or 4 for 4 in cuts made here. And then the player I really like this week. I mean, I just like this player in general because he's hilarious. But when he's playing well, he's like, people really underrate his talent. It's Danny Lee, 7,500, man.
Yeah, he's always a guy that kind of, when you think he's ready to play, he disappoints you. But when he does play well, he plays as well as anyone. So, we don't have him particularly high just in terms of the metrics. But I get what you're saying in terms of a fit. I mean, obviously, 5 of 5 cuts made here. Average is a top 25, 24.4 average finish. 4th in trend, so he's obviously on the way up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, kind of in our third class at 7,500, I think it's probably a decent play. I mean, I'm still there on Nick Watney at 7,300. I mean, he still cracks our first class, 11th in form, 7 straight cuts made. He's only 3 of 6 cuts made here. That is definitely the concern, that it's not necessarily a fit, but that's spread out. I mean, it's kind of interesting. He played here last year, made the cut, but finished 53rd. He's never finished better than 27th. That was back in 2010, which I believe is the year that he also won a FedEx Cup event, correct?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But yeah, the other years around that, I mean, he's played like every other year, every 2 years. He's never played here 2 years in a row, from what I can see. So that's kind of interesting. But he is just, all the boxes are checked. The only argument you could make for me that I could say, all right, maybe you're right, is he's played as well as he can, and there's only one way to go, and that's down. But from what I can see, if he keeps playing how he's played, like at 7,300, I love it. I think it's a really strong play.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, at 7,300, you don't necessarily need him to finish solo second again or something, right? So, making cuts, playing well. Again, I get into, in this range too. It does drop off pretty fast. I mean, I do like Danny Lee. I know he's in a sense he's almost like Aaron Wise because I really feel like he did pop at the players. I'll just give you guys some background. First of all, I mean he's in a better frame of mind. His girlfriend's pregnant, but just from like a stroke and swing perspective, he's been working with new coaches. It's starting to, and apparently it's just starting to click for him again. So, I mean, very talented bunker player. That's part of the reason, in my opinion, he's done well at this course. He's also a Texas resident, which doesn't hurt. He's actually got a pretty good record just in Texas, playing in Texas in general, too. So I like that. I just feel like he's one of those players, too, when everything is going well for him, it's easy for him to keep in a positive frame of mind. His talent really shines through. It's when he starts playing bad, you see these, like, withdrawals and these, like, injuries that maybe you don't know about, but we've seen him put streaks together. I mean, when he won the Greenbrier, he went on like a massive like top 5 streak. Like he was like second at John Deere, competing at like big tier events. Like this is a very talented player. So I do really like Danny Lee this week. I'm going to be all over that. But I hear what you're saying on Watney, especially for if you're going to dip down into this range, he'd be a guy who's definitely top of my list. Russell Henley's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, the thing about Lee, he's putting it a lot better, and that is what I'm looking at here. He is just, it is a very, very consistent upward trend with the putter. So, if the conversation is not about that and more about, him making some swing changes, if he keeps putting it how he has and he comes out and he can strike it just a little better, you're probably right. He's definitely a little more of a sleeper play from what I'm seeing. He just needs to pop and hit a little better. But if that's like, it is a mindset thing with him. I mean, who withdraws more than Danny Lee? Like, not many people. So, if he's in a good frame of mind, he's seeing putts go in. If he can just click, then it's probably you get a lot of bang for your buck at 7,500. He was
first in strokes gained tee to green at this tournament last year. It was either strokes gained tee to green or strokes gained approach. He just didn't putt well enough. So
let's see. I mean, he in terms of the course history data,
he's got a really strong course history here. Like,
yeah, he's fifth. He's fifth. All right, well, let's see. He's fourth in strokes gained tee to green in the field. For a course history, 7th in approach. I mean, 19th in off the tee, 20th around the green. So yeah, I mean, all around. I mean, listen, like I said, averaging a top 25 in his 5 events here. So
there you go. What about Russell Henley?
There is not.
It's pretty good value. It's pretty good value, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're having the conversation of like, I like guys that can win, because we always talk about that. I mean, we know Russell Henley can win. He's never played her before. Kind of just the last few weeks. I mean, he's 3 of 5 cuts made. When you look at what he's kind of done, I think he's probably underwhelmed a little bit. But again, this is probably one of the lower prices for this kind of field. So I think that he's a guy that's better than most of the people here.
He's a hard guy to pin down from a data perspective. Sometimes he's a very like Aaron Wise-ish player in that he could easily pop and finish like T4 this week and just be like awesome all around. You'd be like, where the hell did that come from? Because that's just the way he plays. He seems to play. But I just think from a straight value perspective, he's actually been strong in approaches this year. He's actually really struggled around the green. Like his chipping and sand play is actually like worse than normal, and he actually was never really strong in those areas to begin with. So that's a little concerning for a venue like this. I just talked up about how you need to be strong in those areas, but at the same time, he can put it together for 1 week, and when he does pop, he'll probably, do it. So on a course like this, so
he's a guy that we always talk about the recent trend, and we also talk about the baseline. And in terms of baselines, he's 28th in secret stat in the field. He's 26th in strokes gained putting, but he's like well below his baseline in terms of the moving averages in the recent form. So it seems to me like he's in a position to regress towards the mean, and in this case, that would be a positive move. I don't know if it's going to happen this week because, like you said, it's kind of tough to tell, but it wouldn't surprise me because he's just well below his baselines on everything, and either he's in some kind of weird slump or he's ready to come back.
Yeah, it's like I said, he's the player who seems to take big jumps down and will usually take big jumps back up in terms of things like that. So we'll see. Interesting. Like I said, 7,300 in this field, especially with the bottom half being a little weaker. Like I'm going to have some interest. I'll probably have some exposure too for DFS purposes anyways. Let's, are we going to get back on JJ Spawn, or are you going to get back on JJ Spawn here? I mean, he's another guy who seems to just put together some big finishes.
I think there's some room for improvement for JJ Spawn.
Wow, room for improvement.
I mean, listen, let's not call
Is he your winner?
No. Let's not call it between 3 and 1. But I mean that I'm surprised after looking at the summary data that he finished as well as he did. I mean, listen, we all know, Spawn more of a ball striker than a putter, but I expected to see the putter like really spike to help him get to what he finished third, right? So the fact that I didn't see that as much as I would have thought means that there's still some room for improvement for when this guy clicks and does have a hot putter for the way he strikes it. He's going to be a guy, and I don't know if this is the week, but he is the kind of guy that in like an average to below average field will be one of those like wins by like 4, 5, 6 strokes just because it all works out and everyone's bored by it and it's not really that exciting. But like that's how I see him getting his win.
Yeah, true. I mean, the field obviously this week a little bit stronger, but I know what you mean. I could see him. If it's not here, an event like this would be like in the fall series or something like that.
Was it Bryce Garnett that won like?
That's
the kind of thing that I see happening for Spawn.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, and actually that's how he won on the web.com. I think he won like 5 strokes last year. So at like 25 under, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, he's a player who like when he puts it all together, he'll just go super low. So I'll have a little bit of exposure here too. I mean, TD Green, like we mentioned last week, definitely still clicking. As we go down here, I'm not going to start listing off names, but who interests you from 7,200 or 7,300 and down, or is there anyone of interest really at all? I mean, Joel Damon obviously played well last week.
Yeah, he's still up there for a second class. No course history to pull on, but he's quietly made 6 straight cuts for a guy that's not that consistent. At 7,100, 16th in recent form, second in secret stat. He's just doing a lot of things a little bit better, and I don't know. Maybe it's a maturity thing. Maybe it's one of those things where we liked him a lot last year, and he just never worked out. Like anytime we liked him, he'd finish like 130th. But I think maybe it's just some of these guys, they come out, they continue from college, they play really well, they have the skill. Some guys need to learn how to make it work, and I kind of get the sense that Damon's a guy that is learning to make it work. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look back. I don't know if he's ever had 6 straight cuts made. I mean, I could be off on that, but from what I've seen, and I don't think that's there. So the fact that he's playing as consistently really says a lot in terms of his just like improvement as a tour player overall. So definitely a guy in that range. I like. You mentioned Havin at 76, so that's a little too much. Watney 73. So below that, Ben Crane, interesting. I kind of made the joke last week. I mean, he was one of the more consistent guys. He made 4 straight cuts. Made the cut again last week. So 8 to 10 cuts here. Definitely someone that's interesting. Baddeley, I don't necessarily love, but I liked him last week for the head-to-head, and he came through. He's still striking it better than he should. The putter is obviously what he's been really good with, but it hasn't been recently. So again, I'm just waiting for him to kind of come back with that. But I mean, I don't have anyone written down too exciting. 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah, it's not really exciting in the bottom half. Like, I mean, there's no one hanging around in like under 7,200 that's super exciting, is there? I mean, it's a bunch of guys who kind of a little bit out of form, have flashed a little bit of times, but maybe some guys coming in on a couple missed cuts, and that's it.
I mean, I got 1 or 2 guys below 7 that I could be interested in. Chad Campbell, I'm generally a sucker for, but I feel like I have a good track record with Chad Campbell in terms of like.
This is a good venue for Chad Campbell. Like, this is a Chad Campbell venue, 100%.
Exactly, and that's what I'm looking at. I mean, he's well above his baseline for secret stat, and that's what he's better at. I mean, the putter, if you look at his moving average, I mean, it's still below, but I see a little uptick. And again, when you're looking at a 10-round moving average, for it to tick up means maybe he's found something. I'm not saying let's go all in on Chad Campbell, but he's probably a guy that I might look at a top 20, or especially in the fantasy draft, format of having that 7th guy. He'll probably, I'll tell you now, Chad Campbell will probably make my lineup in fantasy draft as that like lower priced guy that I'll take a shot with.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Just gonna go over a few other guys who played well last week. Obviously Putnam. I mean, 7K played okay. I mean, made the cut. I kind of like this venue a little bit better for Putnam.
I was surprised that he didn't show up higher on the guide.
Yeah,
and
right.
I know it's funny to say because it's like, well, I could just make him higher, but we don't. We let it spit out what it spits out.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's as low as it is, yeah, I mean, he played well. I mean, he didn't, he didn't close like we had hoped. But again, when you have a guy like Putnam, again, not a guy that's been extremely consistent. When you take him, he flashed some stuff earlier. He made a cut for you. Yeah, if you told me that I could take Putnam and he was going to 100% make the cut, then yeah, 7,000, throw him in the lineup. I'll take it. So he's 6 or 7 cuts. Definitely did enough for us last week. I don't know if I'm ready to go back to the well just because there's so many guys that I can make a case for in the 8s and upper 7s that I can probably fit in the lineups that I want. I don't know if I need to go there.
I just don't really want to go into the 6K range at all this week. I just don't feel like most of these guys don't have the upside for a top 10 or top 5 in this field, and it just feels like such a guessing game. Derek Fathauer putted really well last week, and I mean that's pretty much all he did well, but he still finished T16. You do have to putt well at this tournament, so it's a name I'll throw out there. He's flashed a couple times in events like this, so I'm not going crazy with this. Maybe I'll consider him for a top 20 if he's like 20 to 1 or something, but it's another name I'd throw out there. It's just kind of like a GPP target if you're making like 150 lineups. You might throw him in one. John Huh, like what happened to him? He's not playing that bad, is he? I mean, this should be a really good venue for John Huh too. So, like he's finished top 20 here a couple times. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean he's again a lot of these guys, especially at the bottom. I feel like this. I mean. Yeah, he's kind of just.
He was playing so well. And then he's just missed like 2 or 3 cuts.
He's kind of just missed the cut, like you said, 76.
Yeah.
If you want to use the actual number, 76th last week, 81st at the Players, 36th at Zurich. So it technically kind of just missed. 112th at Valera. So I mean, yeah, he was playing well. He strung a couple of decent finishes. I don't know. I don't have it. I mean, like you said, it should be probably a better venue. A guy under 7 that I don't mind. Brian Stewart. He can get hot. I feel like, he can string together a couple of good rounds. I mean, he's played well here. I think he's made 3 or 4 cuts. He's got like a 22nd and a 27th on the resume. Definitely a guy that I like in terms of, the secret stat. I'm trying. That's it though. I mean,
it's hard to get excited about these players when the top of the field's so stacked, isn't it? Because like the top 20, 30 players are really good this week, and then you have Alex Chayka.
Yeah, I mean,
Seamus Power.
I look at Seamus Power and I'm like, he could have been so good for me last week, and he shot 70.
Oh yeah, between you and me, we had like 10 players at -3. I think it was brutal.
Yeah, that was the problem. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that he played poorly, but like if I'm trying to make a lineup this week, I can't really get behind it.
No, it's hard to for sure. So. I don't know. I guess we've talked about the scrub field long enough, or the scrub bottom half of this field long enough. It does feel like almost 2 different fields, doesn't it? It feels like the first 50 players, it's like awesome, and then it's like web.com field. But anyways, Sean O'Hare's 7,100. And by the way, he didn't withdraw with an injury at the Players. He was T2 here last year. I'll just throw that out there to people, in case people are wondering. I know some fans, but I'll have it.
What happened with Grayson Murray? Do we know what that? I didn't.
Oh, I don't. He probably just got pissed off or something and walked off. I don't think there was an injury. I didn't see anything. He's done that before, to be honest. So he's probably just like, oh, I made a double bogey. I'm not winning this week.
We had him up there last week, so I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, no, a lot of people did. He was actually, I think he was pretty heavily owned. I think he was more owned than people thought. I think he was more owned than JB Holmes. Yeah, he got talked up.
Holmes. I think Holmes was the only one that Bobby really whiffed on last week. I'll have to have a talk with him on that because
he had him really high.
It wasn't even close. Like everyone else, like generally Bobby's worst guy is in like, he'll generally have like 4 to 6 guys like that. Maybe he misses by like 5 to 6%, and that's like what the baseline I think we go for him being good. But yeah, he was off by like 13-14% on Holmes.
On Holmes.
I know he has some Holmes love. I think it might have just been a Holmes bias. Anytime I'll put it out there. Anytime you look at Bobby's projections and Holmes is up there, I would say personally reduce it by a couple percent.
We're talking about the ownership projections, by the way, but on Fantasy Golf Metrics, which are actually usually really awesome. But there's obviously always going to be a player too that that's why they're projections for ownership that are a little off. But when I looked at them, I didn't think it was that out to lunch because I would expect JB Holmes to be more owned than Grayson Murray in a field like that. Mm-hmm. It didn't work out that way. I think Grayson just got built up so much by some people that Chalk Grayson Murray is never a good thing, I don't think. I mean, I know people don't like Grayson Murray just in general, but like he's like a mean version of Dan Ely. Like he'll withdraw at a moment's notice. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, let's actually, before we move on and just get out of here, I'll just mention like the Euro event. It's a big event over in Europe this week. It's a BMW PGA. I don't know. Have you looked at it, Steve? Or
I haven't. I've seen some people online talking about it a lot. So I haven't personally. I mean, I've been turning around the site, but I'll talk about it for a second. What do you got?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously like Rory's in the field. Fleetwood's over there. Casey's playing. Noren's there. Noren won this event last year with like the most phenomenal final round ever. But it's a good event. I mean, it's something like, again, if you're like a golf degenerate like us or like me and you want to bet on it, I think it's an interesting field this week. A couple guys I'm definitely on. Paul Dunn, who's been like all over leaderboards at times on the PGA, and he won the team event with his partner. I don't know who his partner was, but over there a couple weeks ago. He's in the field. I really like him this week personally. I think the scores is nice for him. He did well in his first event, so I'm on Paul Dunn. The other guy I would really give a look to, and he's a player people used to be really high on, but he's just had a slow year, hasn't done much. Thomas Peters.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the numbers. I figured you were going to go there. 50 to 1 around?
Yeah, actually, I got him at 60 to 1. But, okay, he was at the Belgian knockout last week, and I didn't do much, but in the stroke play portion, he went like nuts on the back nine. He had like 7 birdies or something. Apparently, it's coming around for him. So if the putter gets hot, he played really well at this event last year. He just had one poor round, kind of put him out of contention. But people always like to forget how talented some players are. It's another player who's very talented. You're getting a really good price on Thomas Peters, 60 to 1. So that's the other player. I think I got a little bit of like Nick Collards too or something this morning. But those are the two players I just wanted to point out. Anyone else fit your fancy over there? Or?
I mean, listen, the odds are actually pretty strong for Paul Casey. I mean, I don't know what the withdrawal was. I think it was like a back issue. I don't know if that's something there, but he's 12 to 1, so I can't really get behind it. But if he's healthy, then there's no reason, given the fact that he's played well in this event before, that he shouldn't be up there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Paul Casey was probably the guy I'd hit on at the front of the market. Brandon Grace is interesting too.
Grace, you got to like after how he finished.
Yeah, he played so well. He actually played well this event. I think it was last year too, or maybe it was the year before, but he's played well this event too. So anyways, just thought I'd throw that out there. It's an interesting event. Definitely can talk maybe a bit more about it if you're a subscriber on the subscriber chat on Wednesday. That's at 10 Eastern, right? When do we do the subscriber chat?
Wednesday? 10.
Wednesday, 10 Eastern, subscriber chat for Fantasy Golf Metrics. So that's another feature.
You caught me off guard. I was trying to cut you off. You're going to love this. I looked up an article so I could, have some background on the PGA, and I was just scrolling down, and I see golfer's wife arrested on domestic violence charge, allegedly attacked him for bad players. And you heard about this?
Oh, yeah, the Lucas Glover? Yeah, actually, we should.
I didn't hear anything about this until this second. I'm sure it was on Twitter. What? I just missed it. Yeah, I didn't even know. I can't even I'm
oh my god. Oh. I mean, first of all, your boy Lucas, like, he's not in a good relationship right now, Steve. I'll give him that. Like, you got to read up on it. But I mean, his wife basically has been attacking him after he's played poorly, and I'm not making it up. Like, he literally told the cops like his wife has been going nuts when he doesn't play well. And I guess Glover's mom and his wife, I don't want to make light of this because it's actually like kind of a sad situation. Yeah. I hope he's okay, like in all honesty. But his wife and his mom got in like a fight, and the cops had to be called. And like, it's just a little sad. I mean, it sounds like he's having a rough time. So
that's crazy.
Hopefully he gets it sorted out. He's an FG Metrics guy. We like Lucas Glover over here. So
I mean, listen, anyone strikes the ball like Lucas Glover. I mean,
I mean, how can you be hitting Lucas Glover? I mean, like, he's like top 10 strokes gained tee to green. Like,
it's interesting to me. I mean, I'm surprised you don't hear about it more. I actually do think about this a lot. I know it's like kind of late, kind of weird to touch on late, but I always wonder how, if professional athletes don't play well, how family approaches it. You don't hear stories like this. I mean, listen, if you get fired from work, then obviously you're gonna be in trouble with the missus or your spouse. But at the same time, it's like, it's a sport, and obviously they're trying. So it's really interesting. I've always kind of wondered what that dynamic's like if a guy's not playing well. Generally, you hear more about the support stories. So to see this was kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure there's some other interesting dynamics going on out there. You always hear about the good stuff in the media until something like this happens, unfortunately. So it's tough, but like I said, I mean, I don't want to make light of it. So yeah, it's an interesting story to read up on, though. The 911 call is
Oh my god.
It's interesting. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. But let's move on and give me your winner for the week, and give me one guy who you think's gonna pop, who people might not be on, I guess.
I'll be simple. I got it already. I like John Rahm to win this week.
Okay.
Yeah. As for a guy that people might not be on, I don't have anyone like that. I mean, in terms of like the second tier guy, again, I like Zach Johnson a lot this week. I don't have anyone too sexy in terms of a play other than that. I mean, Rahm and ZJ are the two guys that I like for like a 1-2 punch. So I'll probably start some lineups that way.
All right. I'm going Ricky. I do actually like this venue for him. I really feel like he's actually performed well on places like this before. The bent grass, I think, hopefully he'll get the putter going. But, his around the green game is fine. His strokes gained tee at green isn't that bad. I feel like this could be the place for Ricky. So I'm going to go Ricky. I don't really have a guy like out of thin air either to pop. I'll just say Danny Lee, I think, is going to be in contention this week too. I really feel like he's a guy who can hold form, and I think he's in a good place. So Danny Lee, Ricky, those are my two guys. But thanks a lot for listening in, guys. We always appreciate it. Give us a retweet on Twitter if you feel like it. If not, no big deal. But do check out the site, fantasygolfmetrics.com. Like I said, the best value out there for golf subscription. Amazing tools. Got the new Round Searcher tool up, so you definitely want to check that out. But for me, Jeff Allard at The Fantasy Grind, Steven at FG Metrics on Twitter. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Take it easy.
Bitch, I be handling my business out in Texas. I get my money, I get my draw, and I get my bitches out in Texas.